Hi, welcome. It's Sunday and it's time for Art of Rock. Art of Rock is brought to you by Angelspit's amazing Patreons. These people put up with so much shit from me and I just don't understand. But I do love you. And also, if you want non-stop music, Diana, I want you to be my putting stuff into Twitch person because I can't. Follow MTV TV because it's awesome. Because god damn it, you should. And also follow Angelspit's Twitch, because Angelspit's Twitch actually mostly reruns MTV TV anyway, so... And also this crap. So now I'm going to turn your mics on. Let me hear your sexy voices.
Hello.
Oh, that's... actually, it's kind of sexy this morning. There it is, MTV TV sticker. I want to talk very briefly about Kate Bush. Because I'm on a Kate Bush bender, and if you're not on a Kate Bush bender, then you just fucking don't understand life, man. You miss out. I've been following... Kate Bush is a remarkable artist. Are you guys familiar with Kate Bush? Yeah, maybe a bit. Yeah, fuck yeah. Mark, you were quiet just then. That means you're not familiar with Kate Bush?
No, not familiar.
I'm gonna Bush shame you. How do I do that?
Cool.
Mark doesn't know Kate Bush.
That sounds wrong.
I know it does, doesn't it? Very, very wrong. But if you're into wrong, this is the place to be. Because the other night, May was borderline getting wrong, and I think I had a lot to do with that. That was a fun gig that went wonderfully off the rails. I think more off the rails. Because off the rails is fun. So Kate Bush, I really advise you get into Kate Bush because she's bloody amazing. And her persona is really good when you watch her in interviews. When you watch her in her first interviews, people talk about her first music so very much. You know, Wuthering Heights and The Kicking Within and that amazing album. But it's also incredible to see how she changed with technology. How when she met the Fairlight, which was the other great love of her life, how her music changed and how she really embraced that thing and how she followed it. It was amazing. But the really crazy thing is she did an album, I think in 82, called The Dreaming. And you need to hear The Dreaming. It's amazing. Really amazing album. And but the thing about it is there's no hits on it. There's no hits. Like, there's no singles. And as a result, they didn't really look at it all that much. They didn't take it very seriously. Because her two previous albums killed it. She was actually the first artist in England to go to #1 with an album, with the track that she had written and composed and performed herself. And she was 19, and she wrote the track when she was 18 or 16, I'm not sure, which is Wuthering Heights. Anyway, 3 years later, after she built her own studio, which was pretty groundbreaking for 1985, she released The Hounds of Love. Here's Tanner. And The Hounds of Love is an amazing album. Like, it's bloody amazing. And what's really interesting about it is The Hounds of Love is full of hits. And it's really fascinating how, you know, Kate Bush has a reputation of being the sort of artist that just goes, you know, she doesn't play by anyone's rules. She's a lady about it. You know, she's a very, you know, she's not some outspoken person like me. She's really, she has a lot of grace. But even she wrote hits. And that album's full of several, like Cloud Bursting and Running Up That Hill and several others that I can't think of right now. But listen to those two albums, The Hounds of Love and The Dreaming, and compare them. I love The Hounds of Love because it's weird. I mean, not The Dreaming. I love The Dreaming because it's just weird. Hounds of Love's fantastic. It will make you cry. It's so fantastic. And when the aliens come and they want to kill us, we're going to play them Kate Bush. And they'll go, You guys are okay, we'll let you live. So that's my spiel on Kate Bush and why I think she's, well, one of the reasons why she's really important. And her work ethic is insane. And it's really funny. You see a lot of these interviews when they're talking to this 19-year-old jaw-droppingly beautiful little thing named Katie Bush. And you know, it's funny how a lot of them, they're all sort of at the back of your mind. You can tell, oh, she's not going to be around long because she's going to get chewed up by this industry. And they were not aware of the tremendous work ethic that this young woman possessed and would have and still does have. And that's why she started producing her. She was co-producer on the second album. She was producing from the third album. And my God, just listen to her vocals. Like, when you listen to the vocal mix and the production of her vocals, they are so good. Like, I'm talking 1982. It's just far out. Phenomenal. I'm not going to talk about Kate Bush anymore. That's a lie. I will. But I want to hear from you guys, and I want to hear what the hell is going on and what questions you have. Go. Anyone?
Maybe.
Please.
I'd like to talk about sources of inspiration, like surprising sources of inspiration, subconscious sources of inspiration, and wanted to ask you guys if you ever had a moment in your creative career where you just found out about one of those very subconscious influences, if you know what I mean.
Fantastic question from Julius again. Adam, go. Just jump on in. This is good. Go.
I can give you a direct example. When I was working on the Skeleton Closet record, I had this song that I had written so many years ago, and I had a bridge for it, and I had a chorus for it, and I had this other piece that was sort of an incomplete poem that had the ideas in it that I wanted for the verses kind of thing, but I had no opening line, and I was like watching TV one day just kind of decompressing, and somebody said a line in the show that I was watching, and it became the first line of the song. I literally I heard it was kind of one of those, I'm like doing something else, the TV's on kind of thing, and I just went, that's my line. So it can happen anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally agree with Adam. Anytime, anywhere. That's why I'm always saying walk around with a notebook and scribble that shit into a notebook or your phone. Somebody who is a tremendous source of inspiration for me is a character from a 1970s English sci-fi called Blake Seven. His name is Avon. And the shit that comes out of that guy's mouth is just amazing. And if you watch Avon, you'll just go, wow, Angelspit lyric, Angelspit lyric, Angelspit. And you all thought I was talented. I'm just a thief.
We all are.
Yeah, I guess. Now, you guys are more classy
Iron Maiden
thieves.
did it, dude.
With who? Avon?
No, Iron Maiden, like Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is like, all the lyrics are pretty much straight from the poem. A lot of Iron Maiden stuff they take from literature, and like direct lines. A lot of the lyrics are direct, very Dungeons and Dragons-y kind of stuff back in the day. But
wow. Is it just lyrics you wanted to ask about, Julius, or is it other things as well?
No, I wanted to tell a funny story as well. It's
Please
not
go.
about lyrics, about the music itself, the instrumental. First off, excuse my lame English today. It's brutally bad today. Anyway, I mostly keep messing around, just sit down in front of my DAW and start composing with nothing in mind. And I always thought that my biggest influences were like new metal, 90s grunge rock, And this weekend or last weekend, I can't remember, I was playing this old school video game I used to play in the 90s on PlayStation 1, and there came this boss music, and I was like, oh, now it all makes sense. And this is this subconscious influence I was talking about, which really amazed me.
I'm curious, what game was that?
Spyro.
Nice.
That's amazing. Adam, go.
I thought of a couple more examples of random things that ended up in my music. Diana and I were talking about MRI machines recently, and what amazing sounds I hi Shaya. I hear these amazing sounds, and the one of the MRI sounds is that kind of that I ended up kind of recreating for the Vias for Voltage remix, right? To make an MRI kind of machine sound. Another one that influenced patterns that I've written and used and stuff was a receipt printer. Like I was waiting in line in the lottery ticket printer, and it was like three different C's, like like C, octave up from that C, and it was doing this like dee 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 kind of thing, and I used that in a track, and then I ended up kind of using that idea again when I did the Ambassador remix way back when for Carl as well, like those kind of sounds. Those rhythms all come from the weird machines just from being around in life, beeps, bloops, emergency sounds, medical sounds, all of that. Like I know well, that's another one that's ended up in one of the remixes, is the a heartbeat beep 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 kind of thing. We went flatline and Ambassador there too, didn't we? But those are all great. It's like, you just pick up these ambient sounds, birds. I remember one morning I was like out on the porch listening to the birds, and there were these, they were talking to each other, and I started picking up on the melody because it was pretty regular, and it was kind of like, okay, you sing now you sing, now you sing. And those counterpoints and that kind of stuff end up being influence in the music. I think back to classical compositions like Edvard Grieg with Dawn from the Peer Gynt suite there, and it's a piece of music that I always loved, but it never really hit me how powerful it was until I was driving east one morning and the sun was coming up and it was on the radio. I was flipping stations and I was like, oh cool, classical song that I like. And I happened to come over this hill at exactly the crescendo moment where everything comes to life in the song, these brilliant rays of the sun coming over, and it hit me so hard. I was like literally in tears, having this like what would you say, like spiritual moment in the music, and I realized that like I was feeling the same thing that he did in the moment that he wrote it, right? And that piece was inspired by him sitting there watching the sun come up over a hill or something, and just everything coming to life around him. So I like this conversation about finding influences from everything, because artists have been doing that from all through all of time. I see your hand, Carl.
Thanks, Adam. Julius, have you ever been on a... Well, I've got a growling cat, and she's going to strike any minute. Have you ever been on a sound safari?
No.
Okay. They're awesome fun. She's just so fucking angry right now. She's shedding like a bitch. Hair everywhere right now. Anyway, Sound safaris are good fun, and you take a tape, a recording device out, like a Zoom handheld thing, or even your phone. But your phone's actually not very good. You can get microphones to plug into your phone. Julius has a microphone he can plug into his phone.
I have this field recorder.
Bam! Perfect. Perfect. And you take that thing out, and you go somewhere. You get on a train and you go somewhere. It's a thing. And remember to have a pop guard, because the wind is going to fuck any good sounds you get. You could use them or you could not use them, or you might find a sound like, to me, it goes back to Depeche Mode's Construction Time Again, where they did a lot of recording on a Fairlight, and everything's about the Fairlight today, and that became songs, and a subconscious thing for me is the cling clang thing, is the banging of metal, because I was brought up with banging of metal when I was a kid. That's really all I got. Eric, I want to hear from you. Go.
Yeah, I just want to chime in with that. Somebody, absolutely, one of my idols and famous for that is Tom Waits. Tom Waits uses a ton of just weird ass shit. Like in interviews, he talks about putting rubber bands around garbage dumpsters and like banging them and clicking spoons against metal grates, and he incorporates a lot of that stuff into his music, which is, I think, maybe down that lane too.
Yeah. Also, if you're feeling really ambitious, we've gone off the topic, I apologize. Build an instrument. And that instrument could be, beat me. No, it's a cup. Even if it is a cup with rubber bands over it, it's a start. Like, we got this box, a wooden box. I love wooden boxes because they're acoustic, and also salad bowls. And you stick stuff onto them, like springs, like spikes, like anything that makes a noise. And those things are going to resonate that, whatever those sounds are. Adam, I see your hand. Eric, I also see your hand. All right, that's okay. Adam, go.
Okay. Fun things that I've sampled. Watches, tick, 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 make a great rhythm. Especially when you're making 120 beat per minute music, it's right there already for you. But time stretch can be so much fun on anything. Other samples. One of the samples that I used that was a favorite is a glass marble in a bowl. Tick, 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 made the most amazing textured sounds, and then chopping it up and repatterning it and reversing it and turning it into a rhythmic instrument was a great deal of fun, and became one of my weird ass tracks on How to Train Your Robot. Another one, just taking a sample of something that you've recorded and then resampling it in a different context. Like, I'm thinking when I did V is for Voltage, I took Carl saying, "Let's make it burn," and I stretched the hell out of it and turned it into "Let's make it burn," and then I cut that up on the turntable, so it becomes this bow up, kind of wiki cut up on the vocals. So resample, time stretch, take the stuff that you record and recontextualize it. Even do things like run it through as a carrier wave for your vocoder or something, like do weird stuff with it. And I'll put my hand down and let somebody else run.
Well, I'll just talk until someone wants to interrupt me, because I love you guys have such interesting stuff to say. It's funny that I don't allow, or I feel guilty if I do sound design. Like if I'm going to say, I will sit down, I will go on a sound safari. I will sit down now and create sound. I feel guilty about it, which has to do with my psychological issues about anything that's fun is bad. But I think it's extremely important. Like, you know, back in the olden days when we used to make songs with olden days machines because it's all we had and it wasn't cool, like, you know, EPSs. I'm not talking about 16s or 16 pluses. I'm talking about, you know, that, you know, you'd spend the day building your sounds. Day one was spent building your sounds, recording them, going out and sampling them. And the second day was spent building a song around those sounds. That is a mindset that I've been trying to get back into for such a long time. But, you know, guilt and time. But, you know, the funny thing is that I can look at songs that I've spent a lot of time, you know, building songs, like sounds with, and the songs are better. Like, they're better. They're sonically more interesting. Diana, I see your hand, and that's kind of it. Just invest the time. Diana.
I was just gonna say what you built for the Nosferatu soundtrack. That was all.
Thanks.
That was amazing, and that was a phenomenal piece.
Well, thank you. It's really cool because it's like when you build stuff, I actually saw people talking about what presets they like. What presets do you use? I wanted to kill them, but I'm not allowed to say anything now because I'm going to offend people. Jesus Christ.
What's a preset?
Are you seriously asking me what a preset is, or all right? Yeah. What the fuck? It's so important for electronic fucking artists to create their own sounds. And if you choose that sound design is a part of what you do, don't grab a sample CD. Go out with a microphone and create your own sounds, because primarily it's fun and it's also very inspiring. Go at 'em.
I beg to disagree just a little bit. Grab the sample CD too, but fuck with it.
Like smash it and record that. Yeah, totally.
Well, yeah, you could smash it, but you can smash the samples too.
Yeah, you know, you can.
Like anything is, in my opinion, anything is fair game.
Sure, man. Absolutely. You know, you're right. I do agree. I think the reason I say that is because I'm a bastard, but also No, let me finish. I need to finish interrupting you. This is important. You were mid-conversation, and I have to interrupt you. I'm just constantly hearing this sameness, and like it's samey McSame, because everyone goes create something, then stick it into run it through Isotope and blah blah blah. And wow, everything sounds the fucking same. It has the same.
I agree with you.
It has the same frequency response. It has the same fucking. Like it's.
Okay, I totally agree with you. We have a game that we play called Name That Sample, but like, but that's why I say fuck with it, because if you fuck with it, you're making it your own. And you know, my opinion on sampling and stuff anyway, I know I stand way out in the pirate realm on this, and I say sample anything, sample everything. But you know, how do I say this? Like, you know, using legacy samples is just as valid of a way of making music as creating new samples. Creating new samples, how do I say this? Combining new samples with legacy samples is an open door as well. I agree with Carl though that, like, you know, using stock sounds, using stock preset kind of stuff doesn't, it sounds like stock or preset kind of stuff, and if you want it to sound like stock or whatever. Like I'm trying to sound like another artist, for this piece or whatever. Great, but my opinion on things is like, yeah, take the samples, take the legacy samples, take the old school stuff, use the same gear that everybody else is using, but put a twist on it that makes it yours. I agree with Carl that like, to stand out in a world of electronic music that sounds very much the same when everybody's using the same tools requires a little more thinking outside the box, and in terms of what we can create and how we create it. Both in terms of our instruments and the other textures that we use.
Shit, yeah. Let me know when you're done, because I want to throw to Julius. Julius, the floor is yours. Thank you, Adam. That was great.
I must say, I haven't noticed this excessive overuse of samples yet, and I wanted to know, when we are talking about this name that sample game, are we talking about percussive samples or atmospheric samples? What is it?
All of the above. Perhaps less so in goth and industrial music. Well, definitely in industrial music, but like, sampling out of movies, right? Like, what movie does that sample come from, or what audio book? Tracking down some of the samples that I've heard has been a really great game. In hip hop and electro swing and house music, sampling is very deep in the culture. The form itself was bred from sampling, right? Like, hip hop itself came from sampling. There would be no hip hop without sampling. It came from taking pieces of other people's music and turning it into a new form of music. So when you're listening to hip hop and classic hip hop music, Name That Sample is a huge game, because we're disc diggers. We are looking to figure out, like, where did that rhythm come from? What break is that? What song did that few bars of beats come from? Where did that horn come from? Where did that vocal sample come from? Where did that sample that the DJ is scratching come from? Fresh. Those things have come up, just so you know, by the way, if you go back and listen to Nine Inch Nails' Pretty Hate Machine, right, produced by Flood, and you listen to, like, Down in It and shit, there's a DJ scratching the sample in that. There's a whole bunch of classic hip hop beats throughout that entire album. Even Susie Sue, you take Kiss Them For Me, those beats are sampled. There's shit tons of sampling throughout musical history. It happens all the time. I was saying before, maybe not so much in goth and industrial music, but then a whole bunch of examples have popped into my head since I said that, so I'm going to take that one back and say, like, I hear so many classical music samples come up all the time. Like, Hall of the Mountain King had a resurgence a couple of years ago, and everybody was doing, kind of rhythms in the thing. Bach gets sampled a lot. Like, I see Carl's hand, so go.
I'll just say quickly, I'm getting into flamenco beats, because we watched Strictly Ballroom the other day again. And if you haven't seen Strictly Ballroom, you need to watch that movie. It's so good. And it's funny, every time I watch it over here, I'm translating for everyone, because there's all these jokes and they don't understand what they're saying. And that's actually, it's great. It's really good fundamental kind of flamenco. An album I'll always go back to as being one of the fucking deal breaker albums was Violator by Depeche Mode. And when you listen to when you listen to the, like, even the snares and the hats, everything, they built everything for every track. Although I'm not sure how true that is, but they built a lot of stuff for a lot of tracks. And I just think it's important and it's fun. Like, that's something very, very important here is how fun it is. That, you know, I'm just going to say, okay, maybe I'm an industrial artist, you know, fuck it, I guess I am. Banging bits of metal and building shit and breaking it while I'm recording it is fun. Coming up with, there are two things that I'm plucking and they're both out of tune. Creating a musical cloud from those two things that are not in a conventional ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da equal temperament da-da-da-da like scale. It's a fun thing. It is inspiring something new. The emotional response, which is a part of what music's all about, it's speaking the language of emotion, is now being thrown into something alien because it's not da 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 da. And that's something I'm really big on, is that sure, you can pedal everything in a low D. Why would you pedal stuff in D? Chorus? I'm asking you guys, why would you pedal something in D, in the key of D? Why? You fail, Mark. Why? Diana, if you don't know this, I'm fucking Adam. Because it's the saddest key of all. Jesus Christ.
That's a myth, though.
No, it's not a myth. Spinal
D
Tap
minor.
said it, and it's true. Wow.
Okay, well,
Oh my God, I'm
Spinal
sorry.
Tap said
It's
it.
my...
That is true.
Well, Adam, something's wrong with your mic. You just got muted. Wow. Wow.
It's a myth, though.
It's not a myth, Julius. You fucking
Well, D minor is.
Oh, well, look, someone else just got muted. Yeah, go on, push me.
You got muted too.
Oh, no, it's going to happen. It's going, bam. It's the saddest key of all. And then...
I was agreeing with you.
Oh, God damn it. Why did you unmute yourself? What you do then...
Get your man.
Oh, fuck yous all. What you do then is you create something over the top that's this weird spiraling thing over this incredibly sad key that is truth. Dear Sealer is D. I don't know what I just said. Yes, Tanner, I'm going to get to you in a minute. But what you do is you create a cloud over the top of that thing. And I'll always go back to one of my favorite things to sample and have laying around. Do I have one? We have one downstairs. Is a fan. Like a fan. And the spokes are a bicycle with the spokes. Because all of those spikes play different notes. They're all slightly different tunes. So they're all playing this harmonic structure. This cluster. And it's not... da 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 da. Everything's slightly out of tune. And if you ever see a bicycle wheel lying in a back alley or a guitar lying in a back, take that motherfucker. A broken guitar is the greatest instrument that you have because it's so fantastic. Yes, Tanner, I'll get to you. But the bike spoke, put that thing up and play the spokes. And you will come up with the most... And then take that, spin it backwards, whatever it is you want to do, you'll come up with the most beautiful, beautiful stuff you've ever heard in your whole life because it's just creepy. I'm going to throw to Killer Switch. Tanner, go.
I was going to say that D is for doom.
Right.
D is for doom. You want to create doom, write about doom, you use D.
And D-tune.
Yes.
If you have a guitar, D-tune to D or to C.
Yeah. Yes. I don't use guitar no more, but when I did, everything was either in D or out of tune for doom.
That needs to be actually your new song is I Don't Use Guitar No More.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Use it. And when that song goes huge and you buy a Ferrari, buy me a Vespa. That's
a Tesla. Okay.
No, a Vespa, like a little bike, or because it's like Italian something, big, beautiful Italian. Or if you don't get me a Vespa, get me a coffee machine. This is important. Or an Elka, which is a really rare synth that Jar and everybody else used in there. Yes, Adam. Yeah. So, but take that. I don't play guitar no more. Adam, go.
The fan is like my first vocoder, right? Like sitting in front of it as a kid and like
Yeah.
yeah, singing into the fan.
Okay.
My first vocoder.
So I'm sorry. Go on. All right. So that's actually really interesting because that's called.
Wait. It's a myth.
Fuck you. You're muted. The fan, that's called amplitude modulation. So you've got something going at a set rate, which is about 60. Oh, no, it's not. I don't know what it is. I don't fucking care. And because it's a constant thing, when you sing into it, it's going to play a note back to you depending on how many, the rate at which the fan blades are bouncing that sound back to you. That's amplitude modulation because it's changing the volume of your voice, although it's a little tiny bit different because it's also using an inflection where your voice is being bounced off it. If you change that pitch, you will introduce a new pitched element into your voice. So and you don't need a modular synth to do this, you can use a software synth or something like that when you're changing the pitch that is being used to VCA amplitude modulate your voice or whatever it is you're doing. And doing drums on that is fantastic. Really fantastic. And now here's something else really fun is depending on because the great thing about modulation is it's not just the note, it's also the shape of the wave that you're using as a modulator. So if you use like a brutal square, you're going to get this really modulation, and it's great. But if you use a triangle or even better, a sawtooth, you're going to get a really buzzy modulation. There you go, fun things to try. And you don't need a modular synth. You don't need to buy fantastic... I love my coffee so much. You don't need to buy amazing modular synthesizers from some of the world's best modular synth people. There's something about this coffee that tastes so good. You can do it on a software synth. You don't need gear porn bad, but if you are drawn to gear porn, thank you.
Boy, I sure hope they're giving you something for that.
No, well, not really. I got
At
the
least
mug.
the coffee
They
mug?
got the mug. I got the mug for free. I actually sent it over because Dofa has this thing. Dieter has a thing. And if you break a module, like if it legitimately, you just send it back and he fixes it. And I was doing a gig in Munich, and these two mad fucking scientists walk into the room, and it was Dieter Dofa himself and Chris Ansell, who's his head software designer. And they were wearing lab coats. Oh, I pissed my pants. I was like, this is like meeting Bob fucking Moog. I lost my shit on stage. Oh my God, I've seen it over. But yeah, no, and you know, you can use, and I'm quite serious when I say gear acquisition syndrome, as I was saying the other week, is a serious issue in our community, and you don't need to buy gear to do this. You don't. You can get free software. Yes, you can get free software that will do it just as well. Sure, modular synthesizers are fun, but it ain't gonna... This is about making music, and some people prefer software. It's great. Boom, bada boom. I've spoken. I could keep crapping on about technology because it is very boring, and I love talking about technology. Anyone else? Does anybody else want to jump in or ask something else?
I think we can keep cracking on about technology anytime, man, because technology... I mean, you were just swinging all the way back to Kate Bush. Look at how everything changed for Kate Bush when you gave her a new piece of technology.
Yeah. And that's actually
like,
really...
Technology changes the way that we make music. It changes everything about music. Like, I don't use guitars no more, hey? Like...
and it's
that's a big fucking change from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I love it so much. The hell with band members.
Exactly. I'm all about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing is we all produce on our own little...
And I'll also just jump back in there and say, thank you, that's great. I'm interrupting because I'm a bastard. If you have a guitar, run it through a modular. I know, run it through a modular and treat it like it's a source, an audio source. Then distort it. And I've done that on an album or two where it's called reamping. So the first thing you do is you record the guitar, you make sure it's all good and in time and all that jazz. So it's just like pluck, 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 pluck. Then you run it through your modular synthesizer. Then you run it through an amplifier. You have to deal with stepping down some massive volume issues, stepping up volume, then stepping it back down, because amplifiers don't like it too terrifyingly loud because you'll blow shit up. But when you start remember I was talking about the fan with amplitude modulation, which is turning the sound on and off or up and down really, really quickly at the rate of a note, like 440 times a second, or 65, which I think's D. I don't know, because it's such a sad number, 65, or is it 87? I think it's a fuck off, Adam. You start introducing all of these other elements, and when you distort them, these elements all crunch together to create something new, and it's a most lovely thing. Good fun. I see your hand, Julius.
So you do record the guitar with no effect.
Yeah, dry.
At all.
Plip, 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 plip. Pluck, 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 pluck. And you play it like you're playing an electric guitar going like a madman person. Then you reamp it, you fix it up, you compress it, you do whatever it is you want to do. You run it through a modular. That can even be a software modular. Then you run that through your amp. And I am all about using real amps. If you're getting a guitar, use a real fucking amp. There's something magic that happens between the amplifier itself, the actual speaker, and the microphone. That air magic is induced there. And I've heard some of the Zoom virtual stuff, and it's fantastic. But there's just something about the joy of sticking a microphone into the cone of a speaker and moving it around a little tiny bit and altering that sound. Like, that's rock and roll, guys. You got to get your hands dirty. Get back into the ways of rock.
How the Beatles did it.
Yeah, it's how your mom did it. Sorry.
My mom wears combat boots.
She does. I know, because she doesn't take them off. Anyway, was that appropriate? I don't know. Yeah, but always fuck around with shit, and always fuck around with shit. Like, yeah, have fun with creating sound. And the melody and all that shit. The beats are all very, very important, but the fact that the sounds are so distinctive. You brought up Flood before. Flood also did Violator. The story is that he walked into a room full of guys who were stuck in a rut, and they didn't know what to do next. And he said, "We are going to have a rock and roll approach to this album, and we are going to record things with microphones, then sample them, da-da-da-da-da." I've got I found something I've always wanted, which is one of those massive drink bottles that you have the water in. I would go and get it. It's just there, but I have a cat on my lap, and she hates me right now. Someone's going to introduce a page that's Yelp reviews done by cats, and they're all going to be, "He's a bastard. He never feeds me. He's a cunt." And there's all going to be Shaya, because she's the most evil cat in the world. But anyway, I have this big bottle, and the bottle is great because it's huge. It sounds like a kick drum. It produces a tone. But when you whack it in different areas or fill it up with water, the pitch changes. And then when you start slushing the water around, you can quote me on that, the pitch and the tonality starts changing. And then you distort that. Oops. Did I just...
Like, it's fine. It's fine you making that noise unless you smell burning toast.
Yeah. But this is the fun thing, is that everything you've got is an instrument. And then, like, you can see this. I've got this, besides the green thing that I've got for my MTV TV thing that I'm very excited about. But I'm also, this is a strut in the room that holds a lot of weight. So I'm going to start hanging big heavy stuff supported by springs off it and recording it and then tapping them a bit. So they do this. And of course, if you have a spring doing this, it's changing its pitch. And then if you have a resonator below it, which might be a water jug or a dead acoustic guitar or whatever, or a salad bowl, you start getting sounds that are freaky. And you build that stuff into your songs, and, you know, fun shit is getting had. And you can sample it or not. You know, I like sampling because I'm that guy. But, and I'll also say, who was, you know, you can get software samplers and they're great. And the good thing about a software sampler or a sampler is it's going to, they change the sounds. And I always go back to how much I love the Emacs, because it does something to sound which is beautiful, and some of the software versions of the emulator too do something similar. They're going to add a bit crush to it. They're going to really fuck shit up. But when you start playing a sampler and you start playing it lower, and you are hearing the emulated, I think it's called Nyquist, or the crunchy low, you know, lowness of what made those samplers famous, which can be emulated via software. You don't have to buy an Emacs. You start getting into some really lovely areas of musicality. I'm crapping on so much. Adam, go. You're muted, Adam. Or were you going to talk? You're muted. There you go.
Wait, yeah, there we go. Okay, sorry. I was taking notes while you were cracking on so I wouldn't forget. But so talking about samplers real quick, about the old hardware samplers, and how those classic sounds came to be, and how they change sound. Hardware samplers have limitations necessarily because they're hardware, right? And when you have these old samplers from like the 80s, they were very, very limited. They had very small memory.
Half a meg.
So, sorry?
Half a meg. Go on, I interrupted you.
So no, that's fine. It's technical, baby. So one of the things that the DJs would do, because there wasn't enough room to sample the entire passage that they wanted to sample, they would hand spin up the record and get the record spinning faster, hit the sample on the spot that they wanted to sample, and then stop the recording and then stretch that sample.
As in play it lower.
Right. Yeah, because now they've got the version of the sample, so then they slow it down and it becomes...
Yeah.
Right. That's how Public Enemy did it. That's how, Dre and all those cats did it. But like Public Enemy, kind of made that technique famous. Right.
And the sampler they were using was most likely an SP1200, which is by Emu, which is basically the same sampling engine as an Emacs that I always go on about. American made, fucking great. And in the corner of my room, I have the original box of one of my Emaxes, because I'm a wanker. And I think it has black mold on it. I'm that hardcore.
It would have been the MPC.
I don't know about that.
Public Enemy.
Well, you can Google it, but I don't care. But it's an excuse for me to talk more about the SP1200. But what Adam is saying is actually correct. Everything Adam says is correct except the saddest key of all, because he has no fucking idea. It's D. And there's no D in Emacs, but it doesn't matter. So, yeah, and that's the thing, is that, you know, this is going back into the joy of fucking with sound to create something new, is that, firstly, here's a challenge. Write a song that only contains, if you don't have a sampler lying around, an 80s sampler, write a song that only has about 20 seconds worth of sounds on it. So if you line up all those sounds, your kick, your snare, everything else, it's 20 seconds. I am trying to set myself challenges at the moment where I am writing a song on one machine only. And this is something that Google's wrong. This is something that I'm currently always fighting with, is that in order for you to keep I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. When you go lower on an 80s sampler, the sound quality drastically degrades because it's a 12-bit sampler. It's not a 96K, 24-bit. It's 8 or 12K, which is shit quality, and it's being played back at 16, 11, or 20 kilohertz. FYI, I sample all my shit at 16 kilohertz because that's what the original drum machines were roughly sampled at, or 11. So it's a really low thing. And you'd think that because it's low quality, it's going to sound muffled. It doesn't sound muffled. It sounds raspy. And it cuts through any mix. And that's why Lindrums and SP12s and drumulators and, they all cut through. Because it's this raspy sound. So when you sample something, play it lower, and that that's why if you very stretch it on your software, you're not going to get the same effect. There are software versions of samplers available that are going to drop the bit rate, because technically speaking, the old Emaxes and SP1200s and fucking MPCs, when you drop the sample rate. If you sampled it at 20K, if you play it back an octave lower, it's going to actually play it back at 10K. And then an octave lower below it is 5K. Because they're actually literally getting the data and stretching it out. Nowadays what it does is it anti-aliases it. So it's all going to have a constant output, but it just makes a calculation to where and that's fucking boring. Because when you actually stretch it out, you start getting errors. I don't know if this is painfully boring to people. I don't know. I hope this is helping you in your quest for sound that you don't need to buy new synthesizers at all. Great stuff. And I'll just quickly... there's another fun thing called a sample and hold, which a sample and hold is going to take a signal, and depending on what the clock is, it's going to cut that sound up and store each or replay the value of whatever the original sound was. So if usually sample and holds are found on analog synths and therefore make creating random voltages and shit that can go on a filter or something, or random pitch. But what you can do, instead of sending in a signal, a trigger signal every 16th, that's going to be creating a random on each 16th, you send in a trigger that's 2,000 cycles per second, or 5,000. And if you put your voice through that thing, it's going to play your voice back at 5K. And this is good fun for drums. If you want to really fuck shit up, use a sample and hold, because it's gonna take a slither of that sound, look at the voltage involved, send that voltage to the VCA, take another slither, boom, 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 5,000 times a second, or however many times a second, whatever clock source you're putting into it. If anybody wants to, cause I just explained that remarkably bad. So if anybody wants to say, what the fuck are you talking about? Go. No one? All right. Fuck with sample and holds.
I think it's easy to think about it in terms of frames.
Okay, that's good. So the thing about frames is that audio starts drastically falling apart under 5K. Like your ears lose the ability to actually figure out what the fuck's going on at 5K. So when it's being sampled at 5K, Mark, if you're Googling me right now and if you're fact checking me, I will be most upset.
Oh no, I'm not fact checking you. You said sample and hold, and I was like, isn't that a button or something on the synth I have?
Yes, it is. I'll just come back to this. So that sample and hold is usually for creating a randomly generated thing that you can then patch that into your filter or whatever to make something random. Because what it's actually doing is there are two signals going into it. The first one is usually noise, which is totally random. And the second one is a clock. And that clock is usually on your piece of gear, it might be every time you hit the key or 16 times a bar. So what it's going to be doing is it's going to be taking a slice of that randomness every 16 times a bar. So it's going to put out this 16th of randomness, which is great fun. And if you've never played with one, play with it. It's great. Don't just apply it to your fucking filter. Apply it to all sorts of things. It's really fun. Apply it. Have one thing that's playing your melody and another thing that's playing something random, and ring modulate them together. Then distort it. So what we're going to do with this sample and hold, instead of it the input being noise, which is random, we're going to use a drum kit, a sample of drums, and instead of it only triggering that slice, that frame rate every 16th, we're going to do it 5,000 times a second. And to do that, we're going to need a note coming from an oscillator, which you can do in software. And that's going to be taking a slice of this thing 5,000 times a second. And the drums are going to sound gritty and lo-fi. For a lot of reasons in an analog situation, because it's going to sound pretty fucking brutal. And always distort. And then if you lower that even lower, it's just going to fall apart. It's going to... It's beautiful sound, which I just can't emulate right now. But if you go higher, the quality is going to get better and better and better and better and better. And you can do that on software. I don't know how well because I'm not familiar with it, but you can do it on this shit over here. It's fucking... Oh, it's just great. So... But like I said, you don't need a fucking modular synth. I gotta stop swearing. Yeah, so that's sample and holds. And they're great fun. There's so much you can do with them. Like, okay, for example, you might take that random thing every 16th and you might say, well, I'm going to plug you into pitch. So it's now going to be playing, I see your hand, Diana, I think. It's going to be playing a pitch that's random, and you've got this other pitch that's playing your bass or something important. So, you know, before I said, well, we're going to take this one, which is the important one, and this one, which is the random one, and we're going to whack them together in a ring modulator. Maybe what this time we'll do, because, you know, remember we were talking about amplitude modulation before? We vibrate the amplifier like when you're speaking into a fan. What that's going to do, I'm going to take that pitch there, and I'm going to plug that as the modulating source for a... amplifier modulation. So it's like if I'm playing this bass line in front of a fan, this guy here's saying, make the fan go faster. Now make it go slower. Now make it go really fast. Now make it go kind of average. So it's going to be applying this really interesting, like, you know, when you're speaking to a fan, but at all of these random rates. And that might be the worst thing you've ever heard in your whole fucking life. But, hey man, we're fucking around. If that doesn't work, stick a drum kit in it and distort it. I am therapy. Anyone? Anyone? Oh.
Yes. Do you have some tips for distortion, maybe? Because I mostly use this one plugin that's
what plugin?
That's built into FL Studio. It's called Fruity Fast Dist, and it always sounds kind of basic, and I wondered what else I can do to distort my sounds.
Okay. Do you have any outboard gear?
Output gear?
Outboard, like amplifiers or anything like that?
I think so.
What do you got? You have amplifiers, because I think I see a guitar in the background there.
Yes. Yes, Amplitube 5, I think.
So
If that
you've
counts
actually
as an
this is a pedal or an amp.
Oh, it's a software. It's
All right.
It's a
Great.
digital amp.
Use it. So there's a whole bunch of different distortions, and we've been talking about amplitude modulation, and I've been explaining it incredibly badly, but you can use it in such a way that as a distortion. Another amazing distortion that people always overlook is wave shaping. And there's a lot of really good wave shaping software. There's also some incredible wave shaping hardware. But, you know, and that's the other thing is if you put a guitar through a wave shaper, holy fuck. Because wave shaping is actually applying this really bizarre voltage formula to the voltage shape of the sound. And it, technically speaking, majorly fucks shit up. Like, really fucks shit up. Distortion just turns it up till it clips, and that's it, kind of. But this is, like, wild. If you have an actual amplifier, all right, cool. Thank you very much, Eric. That looks good. If you have an actual guitar amplifier, like, literally, use it. If you have a microphone and a shitty set of speakers somewhere, use them. Drive into those speakers and overload them. Does it work? Try it. There's something I always go back to, and that is the power of a transistor, a practice amp. And apparently the rumor is that, you know, when you mic up your amps, you've got your great big fucking Marshall cabinets, and it's all very expensive, and you mic them up and they sound beautiful. I think it was Sepultura, I might be wrong on this, they had a PV Bandit. And a PV Bandit is one of those horrible transistor practice amps. Awful. And they're thin and tinny and what they did is they sat it on top of, or they put it in a different room, mic that fucker up as well, and they put that through. And they bought up the Bandit, the PV, shitty, horrible PV Bandit, because they had this massive, big, beautiful Marshall wall of fantasticness. And they brought up the Bandit so it was just sitting in there, and it added the most amazing high definition sheen to the whole thing. So you might go, I'm going to use a if you've got a microphone, which I think you do, because you're using it right now, you might go, I'm going to use my amazing plugin, but then I'm going to use a speaker that is a piece of shit. And I'm going to stick that speaker in the bottom of a huge bowl, or I'm going to push that speaker onto a salad bowl. I'm going to gaff it on there. And then I'm going to stick my microphone into that salad bowl, because the salad bowl is going to add as a resonator, a very bad one. Stick it on there, make sure that drive it as hard as you can, so the salad bowl is going to resonate with the sound of whatever it is you're putting in there. Mic it up. You might have to do some noise filtering and all that shit later, but it's going to add a high-end rasp. And you can actually buy these things. They're called transducers, I think. They're painfully cheap. Transducer amplifiers, you can get one for like $20. And you can get the amp to run them for like $20 as well. And the amazing thing about a transducer is it's a speaker that doesn't have the cone. It's just the driver. I should be researching this before I start talking shit about it. But what you can do is you can put it on a wall, and it will make the wall vibrate so that the wall now acts as a speaker. But then you can use this for corruption. So you can push it up against something metal at the bottom of a stairwell and put your microphone at the top of the stairwell. So you've got a reverb on it, and then you bring it slightly ahead of everything. So when the reverb's going to be shimmering and then it hits, I'm sorry, I'm so scattered right now. So imagine the sound hits here and the reverb's here. So we're going to get that and we're going to drag it here like this. So the reverb's going to come in like pre-reverb, and it's going to hit on the beat, if that makes sense. Basically fuck around with shit. Julius, I see your hand. Save me.
That's very helpful so far. Thank you. You were talking about this one amplifier. Did you say transduce amplifier?
Transducer.
Do not Google this. Like, honestly.
Oh, okay. It's pretty scary.
Transduce. Okay, I can't find it apart from some strange websites.
Okay. Oh boy. See, everyone was Googling me and now they're not anymore. Hold on. Trans.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I see what's going on here. Transducer amplifier. Transduction? Is that it? No, that's not what I want. Yeah, transducer. It should be a transducer pickup. You can also do fun things like plug that into springs, and then you get a spring reverb. And I'm starting to kill my... I can't go online here. Yeah, man, transducer amplifier. Yeah, I'm starting to kill... I think I'm killing my feed a bit because...
I spelled it wrong. Oh my god.
All right, well, after this, please tell us what you... I've got to see this shit.
I think I know what he googled.
I'm sorry. I'll just mute myself now and not talk for the rest of the day.
Excellent. Oh, we made him blush. So, does somebody else want to tell me what I was supposed to be Googling there? Mark's absolutely lost in. It is I'm pretty sure it's transducer.
Amplifiers.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know where Julius ended up, but I'm amused by it.
I'm pretty sure he misspelled trans.
Yeah, or if you put trans space, that might bring something else up as well. Yeah.
Oof. Oof.
This is where we need May Graves, because this would become something epic. Anyway. Transducers, they're great. And they exist in spring reverbs. And, once you have one of these things, and they don't cost very much. And there's another, so you've got an amplifier, like something that you actually put on something and it's going to incite that thing to vibrate. Then there's, incite to vibrate. I'm sorry. And then there's another one, which is the microphone. And they're called mesopiezo transducers, and they're like so fucking cheap. Oh, so fucking cheap. Yeah. Anyway, but anyway, if you want to go down this road, it's a really good road to go down. Yeah, sorry, man. you just destroyed audio. It's really fun to go down because you can, once you have this gear, you can chain anyone up. Once you have this gear, you can like use salad bowls and springs and all sorts of things to become things that are altering the audio, and it's really good fun. All right, that's all I got. Seriously got upstage there. That was good. That's good.
When I was younger, I showed my friends Angelspit, and they told me that it sounded like robots having sex. And working, synthesizers is totally sex.
There you go. I was actually in a band called Machines Having Sex.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And we did shit like this, and it was funny that there was this thing because there was a word we didn't like in there, and that was having. Machines having sex. They didn't like the word having, and it's like it's wedged between these two really potent words. And the logo was stuff like somebody plugging a thing into a wall, or a petrol bowser, a petrol pump going, stuff like that. Pure old stupid shit, which you guys would probably be into. Anyway, and we would experiment with all this stuff. Like, we used to build huge instruments, and it was good fun. Good fun. And we actually did use transducers on that one as well. And, we'd be, you'd make something out of wood, and you'd attach a spring to it and stuff like that, and you'd be using that as the pickup because, you know, it has a really good acoustic quality. I'm just going to stop talking. Somebody asked me a question, although the best question answers just run away. Someone, let's go.
I can make a quick recommendation. KMD makes these nice little piezos that you can put on like your acoustic guitar and plug right into the amp, so all the voltage shit's all sorted out, and they're like $30 or some shit at Guitar Center.
Wow. Okay, that's great. This is where we get into learn how to solder or sodomize. Because you could build a...
Sodomize your transducer?
Yeah. You could... it's not going away. But just make sure your rod is hot when you are sodomizing it. Hot enough to melt metal. You can actually build a really good quality one for like $5, even $2. And they're bloody great. Anyone? No.
Oh, this reminded me of a Atari Teenage Riot song and a Lords of Acid song put together.
I can think of every single Lords of Acid song, and they all apply to this. I don't know which Atari Teenage Riot song.
They actually have a song called Transducer.
They do? I suck.
Yes.
I just lost points. Thank you very much for that. Of course they do. So does anybody have anything else they want to, chatter about? Or do we bugger off and go watch MTV TV?
I have a question related to music.
Go.
How do you feel about cane toads?
I think they should be clubbed. Cane toads should be, exterminated. Like, seriously. So, when you see Australians hitting them with golf clubs? Yes, I'm all about it. Haven't we had this conversation before?
I don't remember bringing it up.
They're really serious. Like, they're a very noxious species, and they're invasive, and they're very hard to kill. Rumor has it they suck their guts up if you squish them, and then they hop away. If you lick their backs, they are hallucinogenic, but too much will kill you. They secrete a poison. They squirt a poison, and if it gets in your eye, it will blind you permanently.
Wow.
If dogs eat them, they kill them. They're motherfuckers. And they can't handle it too cold, so they're not too far down Australia. But they have a bounty hunting day in Queensland, that if you see a cane toad and you kill it, you get $1 for them. And people turn up with bounties worth thousands. But they're a terrible, terrible being. They were brought over to take care of a moth or something, I can't remember. But they didn't do an environmental impact that nothing can eat this thing because it is a hallucinogen. So kill them. Have no mercy. And there's a movie called He Died with a Falafel in His Hand, which does briefly cover this. It's a great movie. It's Australian. I'm on an Australian movie bender right now. Another great one to see is Two Hands. It's amazing. And also Romper Stomper. It's just terrifying. And it's Russell Crowe's first movie. And he's terrifying in it. Really fucking brutal movie. Terrifying movie. Anyway. And, of course, Strictly Ballroom and Muriel's Wedding. Oh, my God, Muriel! Somebody asked me something else. And there's a movie called Razorback that Ivor Davies from Icehouse did the theme to. And if you get past the fact that it's terrible, it's actually fantastic. And Australia has this thing about things moving quickly that will kill you. Mad Max. Cars That Ate Paris is another amazing movie. Half the cars from Cars That Ate Paris are in Mad Max. Cars That Ate Paris is a movie about a town in Queensland called Paris. It exists. I've been there. And it's this little shithole. And it gets attacked by demon-possessed cars. And these cars are all like freaky-looking cars. And the word is this movie inspired Mad Max. But anyway, watch Razorback because it's about a huge pig called a Razorback. That's what they're called. That goes crazy. And it kills everyone. Big fucking pig. And Big Pig is also the name of a band in Australia who were like, they all wore aprons and they'd bang fucking bits of metal. And they're really good. Like 80s, really good stuff. Fairlight and stuff they'd whack. More Fairlight, which was invented in Australia. Big Pig. Bloody great band. It's early, really early industrial before there really was industrial. In fact, if you're bored, which most of you look incredibly bored right now, research Australian industrial music. Because it doesn't, it sort of got overlooked. And I would call, obviously Lux Voltaire, who you've never heard of, but you need to hear of. He never submitted his track. Did he submit any fucking tracks to MTV TV? I'm going to punch that bastard. Lux is actually the guy that got me into industrial. He's my oldest mate, and he's also fucking insanely incredible musician. Australian industrial music is, SBK and Severed Heads and Helium 3 and Boxcar and Single Gun Theory and, when I was in Sydney, now I'm reminiscing, I was in this collective called Primary Darkwave, and it was for industrial bands. And this was in the late 90s, early 2000s when I was in Jekyll Switch, and there were 200 bands in Primary Darkwave in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. 200 fucking bands. They are industrial bands or goth bands who were actively gigging. The industrial scene in Sydney was crazy. I used to run this website called Sydney Gothic, and it was like everything that's going on in Sydney that's goth industrial. And every night there was like 5 things going on. Literally 5 things every night. Bands. Like straight up terrifying industrial bands all the time. It was good fun. Ask me something. I'm prattling now. I'm reminiscing. Glory days.
I was wondering, what instruments do you play? Not only Carl, the others also?
Well, I tried to learn violin for a while, but I just couldn't stick with it.
Super difficult. I tried it too, but...
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
Do you still have the violin, Mark?
Yes.
Excellent. You can do some really wonderful things with the violin. Anything that's got strings and any way to tune it or detune it, remember you have coins, sandpaper, all of these sort of things that you can play it without damaging it. You can start doing some really cool things. You know how they have prepared piano? Also, okay, prepared piano was when they would put bolts, screws, washers into a piano. So when they hit the key, it just wouldn't go bong, it would go klong as it scraped with a washer. They also do prepared violin, which is really fascinating. Cool instrument. Really, really cool. I actually recorded somebody who hooked a wheel up to it and used it as a hurdy-gurdy.
Oh.
Yeah, fascinating sound. And it didn't sound horrible. It actually sounded really good. I will shut up and somebody else will now answer the question and I will hijack it. Go.
Well, I play guitar, bass, keyboards, a little bit of drums, some accordion. Mainly guitar and keyboards, but I dabble in everything I can get my hands on.
Cool.
And these 2 instruments, like it was guitars and keyboards you just said, right?
Yeah.
These 2 instruments are the ones you use mainly for your productions.
Yeah, mainly.
Okay.
I also play a couple I have an electronic drum kit back there as well that I connect into my interface and record electronic drums and stuff as well.
Cool.
That's cool.
Can I ask you a question, Eric?
Of course.
When you play drums and you record them, do you record the MIDI or the actual sounds coming off them?
MIDI.
How hard do you quantize that MIDI?
It depends on the sounds. I run it through Native Instruments Battery 3 is where I get most of my drums from. So when you plug it into your audio interface and it goes through the system, you can program the sounds you want into your electronic kit. So like whatever you hit on whatever corresponds with the sounds that come through, and then you can quantize and do whatever you want through Battery 3. And it depends on which sample it's going through.
All right, cool. I'm just always interested that when people put a real actual performance, it changes the song so much because the song suddenly has this life, this funk to it. So do you actually embrace that, or do you go hard quantizing?
You know, I've never actually played it live like that, so I've never really experimented with any of that yet.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Yeah, to answer your question, I don't know yet.
All right, cool. So, do you have an amplifier? You have guitars, you have an amplifier.
Yeah, I have I have two. I have a little Fender 20 watt, and then I have a crate stack that's...
Great. So you've got the 20 watt Fender would be transistor. So that's a
Yeah.
practice amp. There you go. So, you know, one thing you could be doing is putting down drums and amping them, running them through your amps. Have you ever done that?
I haven't. Unfortunately, the electronic kit I have doesn't have any external speakers. I'd have to... Or you mean running it through, plugging that into my amp? Yeah, I'd need an interface. I'd have to figure out how to get the interface to run through.
Okay.
Get it through the amp.
Because like option one is you record it, get everything ready on your interface, run it out of your interface, drop the volume a bit because it's looking for a guitar level, run that through your amps, and if you have another device you can record them on,
Yeah.
like unless your interface can record and play back at the same time, then you just need a mic and shove it in there.
Yeah, and shove it in. Yeah.
The best drums, the best electronic drums you're ever going to hear are run through amps. And Depeche Mode did that on Some Great Reward, I think. One of their albums where they... Oh, well, People Are People. You know that massive, huge fucking drum sound? They ran their the kick. It was actually a studio in Berlin. They ran the kick through a PA on the bottom floor, the snare through a PA on the second floor, and the bass through a PA on the top floor. And I think the drum was either Emulator or SB12, both EMU, I don't remember. And it's the biggest fucking sound you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Always amp that shit up, man. If you can do it.
Yeah, I'll definitely give that a try. Thanks.
And even better is if you have a stairwell, run it down the stairwell. I mean, like noise complaints and shit. But if you can put it at the bottom of a stairwell and mic it at the top, and even
Cool,
put
yeah.
2 mics, you will get the most mind-blowing ambience off that shit.
Cool. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. All right, somebody else answer Julius's brilliant question and let me fucking take over.
What instruments do you play, Carl?
Currently I'm playing the cat. And she's shedding. I learnt keyboards when I was very young, like 14, 13, which isn't very young. And I'm terrible. I'm bloody awful on keyboards. And that's the cool thing about the live jams I'm doing is I'm forcing myself to play more. And you'll notice everything I play is really slow because I suck that badly. But use what you got. I play bass guitar remarkably horribly. I don't have a bass guitar right now. Slash guitar. I can really only play the bottom fat string because I suck. But interestingly, the best riffs I've ever written have been on bass guitar, badly, because your brain thinks differently to this. And there's just something about it that, because if you're playing a bass guitar, if you're playing a keyboard, you just go plonk, 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 plonk. But if you're playing a bass guitar, you're going to go gang, 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 and you're going to do all this stuff. Gang, gang, there's just stuff you do that makes the actual way you play the instrument change the composition. I play didgeridoo. Crazy. I can circular breathe and all that shit. I have this beautiful didgeridoo in Australia, and it's like 5 foot, and it's termite eaten. So the middle of it's not bored out with the drill. Termites ate it. It's really expensive because of that reason, and it's hard, some really fucking hard wood. And because termites have eaten it, it's not a clear hole. It's got all of these jagged bits in it, so it has a beautiful tone. What else do I don't know. I think that's it. I wish I could play drums. I wish I could play a lot of things, but I'm talentless.
Well, I was gonna ask you, Julius, what do you play?
I do play a tiny bit drums. That's the instrument I actually started with when I was a teenager, like 14 or 15. I play a little bit of bass guitar and tiny bit of electric guitar. No acoustic guitar though, because I think that's two very different things. Acoustic and electric guitar. Yeah.
Cool.
I got myself a bass guitar after many years, like a month ago, but it was broken on arrival. So I had to get a refund first, and I'm going to pick it up next weekend and maybe work some future songs with it. You'll see.
That's awesome. Adam, what do you play besides turntables? And Diana, you're next, because I know you play a shitload.
Are we doing that? Okay. I was a very, very serious drummer for many, many years during the glam rock days of rock and roll. And then started DJing, and I've been doing that for a long time. So as Carl says, I do play the turntables when I don't have a pinch nerve. Right now I don't play fucking anything. I have a pinch nerve going on, and I can't move my left arm right at all. So other than singing on my record, I sequenced everything. Like literally everything on my record is written by robot, so to speak, or written for robot. I do kind of mess around a little bit with everything. Like Carl said, I've written some licks on bass guitar. I kind of futz around a little bit with everything, but I'm kind of not good at any of them. Drums I was very, very serious about. And then I got very, very serious about sequencing and mixing and DJing, obviously, mixing as a DJ. And that's where my whole sampledelia thing comes from, is cutting apart songs to make other songs, to make new songs and that kind of thing. And doing, doing that on the turntables. It is a very physical, it's a lot like playing the drums. Yeah.
Thank you. Diana, blow us away.
Actually, my first instrument was a couple octaves of handbells, and then I took done piano, flute, marimba, timpani, and the rest of the percussion, basically.
That's insane.
Well, what was it, last month or the month before, you made a joke about timpani players, and I just was cracking up. But yeah, I needless to say, like, I don't have any in my house at the moment. Would be nice. So it's been a while since I've played them, but yeah.
Cool. Very cool. I think it's always, if you have instruments lying around, use them and abuse them. Don't break them. Well, I mean, like, if you want to, that's your thing. But I think it's really important to push beyond what they were designed to do and find other sounds inside them. And that's what's really exciting about, like, well, not just electronic stuff, but acoustic stuff as well. Like, you know, attach springs to them. See what happens. If you have a guitar, bow it. Julius, buy a bow. Oh, yeah. Get a bow. And bow that bass. Because you'll play it differently, you'll come up with different ideas, and it sure as hell sounds different.
I know an artist, a musician who does that. She's called Lumia Dark, if you've ever heard of her.
Rings a bell.
And I think it sounds amazing. She puts a lot of reverb as well, and it's...
Yeah. Experiment. Just experiment. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. It's just excellent fun. And if you have an old guitar or an old something lying around, sacrifice it. You know, cut it up, turn it into something. You know, it's just the best fun. I might actually, unless anybody else has something else they want to talk about, I'm going to suggest we put a pin on this and right on over to MTV TV. And a reminder that Space Couch is on it in about 20 minutes as well. So does anybody else have something they would like to bring up? Diana, go.
Next Sunday, the MTV TV special at noon.
Yes, and we're going to be doing this early. So it's going to start at 8 o'clock LA time, and it's only going to go for an hour, so that we can then jump on over and jump on the MTV TV launch of all the new crazy material that they've got on happening there. So next week is going to be 2 hours earlier. Sorry. I should prepare something, because in case people aren't here. I should do that. I have nothing else to offer unless somebody else has something to offer. Eric, go.
Nothing much to offer, but I also have, and I love coming to these meetings. Now it's very inspirational for things, and just hearing you talk about just take things, make noise. I also have a theremin by Moog that I am not very good with, but it's been sitting here now for about probably over a year now that I haven't touched. So I think I'll pick that up and start just fucking around with it again.
People in this room want one.
Okay, can I just say, I want you to say, I have a theremin, and then everybody, I want you to react the way you reacted. Go.
I have a theremin?
Everybody got so excited.
Yeah, it's right here.
Which one is it?
I don't remember the model, but
yeah,
I got this.
Oh, it's the real fucking deal. Yeah, well, you get a punch in the face. You get a punch in the dick for not using that thing.
I deserve a double,
yeah,
punch for that.
Theremin are so good. Oh my God, they're great. If you have a melody, all right, hold on, Tanner. If you've got a melody going on in a track, try and play it on the theremin, and if you wiggle around, it's fine. Use that fucking thing. Tanner, go.
Oh, I'm not saying anything, but I am disappointed that he hasn't been using the theremin.
Yeah. Yeah. They're great. And especially, I've actually got that one. It's mine's broken though. That's my excuse. And then distort it. Run it through your amps, and you reverb it, and it's just brilliant. There's so much you can do. Oh my God, they're fantastic. All right. Thank you all, and thank you to everybody. I have no idea how many people are watching this, but I'm doing it for you guys because it's good fun. Next week, 2 hours earlier, and it's going to be bloody awesome. And we're going to zoom on over to MTV TV. Do it. Let's raid. Let's raid.
On it.